probably should put some soda in there, but that's our beer for... This is episode 4 of the Hot Rod Kid podcast, hosted by me, Noah Norwood.
And produced by me, Garrison Foster.
My guest today is an all-around cool guy and a local hot rodder. He's one of the people who sits on the board for Cruising McMinnville, which is a local car event that we have in our community. Please welcome Tim Elliott. We're going. All right, Tim, how are you?
Living the dream.
Every day, right? Yeah. So probably the biggest thing we could talk about is you're the kind of the founder of Cruising McMinnville, right? Or the guy who runs it mostly?
Oh, far from the founder.
Not the founder, right? So there's tell the story. There's some people who did it before, and
Yes.
now you've taken over.
Cruising in McMinnville started at least in the 40s.
Right.
So it was a super popular thing, and through the 60s. And when I was a little kid, I was not allowed to cross over Highway 99. I lived on the west side of town.
Okay.
And not in the rich area, in the poor area of next to the rich area. So gotta define that right there. So everybody's, oh, you lived in that area.
You're one of those people.
Yeah, and no. So in fact, my dad wasn't allowed to golf at Michael Book because we lived over the line. And in the 70s, they came and said, hey, would you like to join? And I can't repeat what Dad said. It wasn't pretty. But he was a Bayou guy, just for that reason.
Good old Bayou.
So I would literally sneak out of my house and go watch people cruise. First time I ever saw a car do a wheelie, it was a mid-engine Corvair doing a wheelie. And I saw cars and heard second gear rubber and just so many cool things. And it was just a hub. It was a hub for Yamhill County. People came from Salem. They came from Portland. It was just a happening place. So Ruben Contreras, he actually came and talked to a few of us and said, what do you guys think about doing this event? And they set it up in like October or November, which is an awesome time in Oregon to cruise. Not.
Yeah.
So anyhow, but he just wanted to get something going, and it had a great turnout. And then he moved it to a couple different time frames, and it ended up the 4th weekend in August. But it was called Drag the Gut. I Drag the Gut, and he copyrighted it. So we have to be very careful. And I give ultimate respect to him for what he did. He did a great job of starting it. And then we had an opportunity about 3 years ago to take it over. And it was literally the middle of July or first part of July. And he said, I'm done. And we had talked about it and said, we're not going to ever do anything to force him out. But if it ever comes down to where he says, I'm done,
over. Yeah.
We have a plan. And we took over at that point. We're still friends. We see each other. Last year, I invited him to come down. I said, when you're listening to the music, he says, well, I'm not sure I'm coming. I said, Ruben, when you're listening to the music, come over, make sure, I just want to shake your hand, give you a hug, and we want to talk for a little while. And people will see that we get along, because everybody's always kind of thought that maybe there's some friction in there.
Right.
And there really isn't, not at all.
That's good.
So we took it from a for-profit enterprise and turned it into a nonprofit and organized. Everybody's like, you'll never get it done before the event happens. And this is like first part of July. And we happened like the 21st or 22nd. And we had gotten our 501c3 designation, had everything done, and it was awesome.
Yeah, see, and I never even realize that it was that official until, because I remember with the whole permit thing was kind of the downfall of it originally. And so I never realized that there was really that much, which I mean, I guess is kind of blind to me, because when I did my event out here, just how much planning just went into having it at my house. But I really never realized the whole permits and all the stuff in for-profit or non-profit that you guys had to go through to get all that stuff going.
And we didn't have to do it as a non-profit, but we wanted to. And our goal was and still is to benefit kids that are in high school, that are graduating, that are going into the trades. So if they're going into any skill, they can do refrigeration, they can do welding, they can, whatever it is. We had a couple hairdressers this year, in fact.
Right, I remember seeing that.
There's 2 gals out of the 3 that we gave scholarships to this year. So we want to scholarship them and help them get into those skilled trades, which is there's just not as much money. There's money for academia, kids that are super smart and have 3.8 GPAs and up. But what about the person with a 2.5?
Right.
That
was me.
And
Yeah.
Well, I got a 4 point every 2 semesters when I was in high school. I'll let you think about that.
Yep.
So it would have been a cumulative total. I'll let you think about the math to get there.
Yeah.
But what I wanted out of school was out of school.
Right.
That was just my personal thing.
I used to skip English class to go work in the metal shop.
I wish
which is probably what led to my but yeah, I was like, I'm not going to learn anything from reading Shakespeare, but I want to go practice my gas welding,
Right. Fortunately, we had music, and that's what kept me in school. But we didn't have any kind of a metal shop or even much of an auto shop.
You went to Mac?
In McMinnville, yeah. Mm-hmm. And it's a lot better. The VOTEC, or whatever you call it, vocational tech building that they have is phenomenal. It's really cool. Right. We actually helped them. We were able to do last year teacher grants, and we were able to buy some equipment so that they could do like laser
That's super cool.
etching and bits and all kinds of stuff. I think we gave them right around $2,000.
That's super cool.
So we were able to do that for Dayton. We had we had 3 different places in Yamhill County that we were able to fund.
See, I went to Amity, and even though it was a smaller school and we had a smaller shop, there was still quite a few grants that had come through. So we got some for some of the Lincoln multi-process welders. So it's a MIG, stick, and TIG. That was really cool. Mm-hmm. And then we also had an engineering class that had a 3D printer. So we got to learn CAD design and doing 3D printing. Awesome. That was a lot of fun stuff that, we got to learn.
Right. Mm-hmm. And I know Sheridan is poised to make a real leap in their in their tech.
I went to, where was it? Silverton High School one time for an FFA event. Yeah. They have a full-on auto shop. Right. With like 3 lifts, like 3 times the size of this shop. Just super cool. Gorgeous. And that's completely separate from their fabrication shop and completely separate from their wood shop. They just had one that was completely dedicated to just mechanical work and automotive. Right. Yeah. Get a little jealous of those bigger schools.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a whole different gig.
Yeah.
So, and I've been impressed with what Mac has done. Dayton has an amazing shop program. Right. Actually, Sheridan, again, Matt Hall is the guy in Sheridan that's going to be doing some really cool things. Willamina has a good program, too. Yep. So it's been interesting to kind of get into those programs and get to meet some of the teachers and the leaders there as they help the kids know that we're out there and doing the programs that we have. That's super cool,
yeah. Scholarships. And I never realized that until recently when you guys started promoting it more, that it was a scholarship program. Right. Because I saw recently on Instagram and stuff that you guys were doing that, but I never realized before that it was anything like that. Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, promotion. Before, again, it was a for-profit. Right. And we just turned it into a not-for-profit or a non-profit, I should say, because people got into us with it and said, okay, what's the difference between not-for-profit and non-profit? So we're a nonprofit. Right. And we got that designation, and everything we do, nobody takes a salary, nobody gets paid. We're all volunteer. There's 5 of us on the board. I happen to be the board president, and, I said I'll be the dartboard for as long as I can be the dartboard. Because, be the person that meets people and does most of the PR stuff. Right. Have you guys changed your approach to what cars you allow in Cruising the Gut or Cruising McMinnville, or is it still the more open thing like it was before? It's open, very open. Okay. Yeah. And the theology behind that is when we were kids in the 70s, when I went cruising, my mom had a Rambler. Yep. And I would drive the Rambler. And when my car broke down when I was older, she had a Pinto wagon. Yeah. And it really didn't matter. That was the cool thing about that event. Yeah. If you were there, if you're driving mom's wagon or dad's 4-door, it didn't matter what you were driving. Yeah. Sure, you wanted to be seen in the cool car. Right. Right. You didn't want that car mom's Rambler was shiny. Yeah. Right. I made sure it was spotless if I was driving it. But that's what Saturday afternoon was for. Yeah. But it doesn't really matter. And the fun thing is you take a minivan full of kids. What are those kids going to see? They're just going to see people having fun. Exactly. It's good, wholesome fun. We really
monitor that. We don't want people just, we're very cognizant of somebody like doing burnouts.
Yeah.
We'd love to have a burnout program, an actual burnout contest.
Sanctioned, yeah.
Right, where people can do it in a safe space. But for somebody to just do it in the middle of the street, spectators could get hurt, a throttle could stick. We've seen it before.
Yeah.
And we just don't want that. It's liability.
What I see the biggest issue with it is because it's kind of designated to just that one time a year. Mm-hmm. I think you get a lot more people where they get a little bit too carried away, where if it was more spread out, which, I mean, they've had their reasons of why they don't want to do it.
Right.
For being, kind of a throughout the summer thing. But I think that then you get a lot more of that people who start doing stupid stuff like that. They start doing burnouts, or they start getting a little bit too drunk at the Blue Moon. And then, you start to get those issues. But
in 2018, we had 150 volunteers.
That's crazy.
And we had 170 and change in 2019. And that allowed us to have a lot of people on a lot of corners and a lot of eyes. And the neat thing is the sheriff's deputies, they've got the cadets that came out and walked the streets. The city, there was people who wanted to work where before they maybe didn't so much want to be involved with the event.
That makes sense. Yeah. Well, the law enforcement presence definitely does help out a lot, because when they've been there, they're not being a-holes or anything. They're just walking around, like being friendly, and just the presence of them being there definitely makes a big difference in the event that I've noticed.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And our challenge last year, obviously COVID-19 had an impact on the event.
Yeah, that was disappointing.
But probably the biggest challenge was the restaurants going out into the streets, the Mac Downtown Association. They really didn't come to us and ask by any means, because we probably could have pulled off something. It may or may not, but we didn't want to go against the mandates, for one. And we thought it was really good that the restaurants got to be out in the streets, and it allowed them to have their business. So we walked down and talked to them and met them and shook hands and elbow bumped or whatever, and said, good on you guys. So
was that just a COVID-19 thing, or was that a kind of every time thing? You think it'll continue on, the restaurants in the street?
We don't know.
Okay.
We don't know. I think it went really well for them. And that's one of probably my personal concerns is, what does that look like? We've got to get together with the Downtown Association and see what does it look like for you guys.
Right.
Because if that is going to be an annual thing, that doesn't leave room for our event.
Yeah.
And our event is the biggest single day event in like Saturday, the day of the event is bigger for the restaurants downtown. Like McMinnville's, most of the big restaurants, it's their biggest single day. Was the Cruising McMinnville day. Yeah,
and I mean, a little disappointing for me is even on days that it wasn't Cruising McMinnville or anything like that. That was always in a summer evening. I'd love to just take my cars down there and just kind of drive around through there. We'd get a little group of friends and just go on our own little cruise and go up and down 3rd Street, And it was always kind of a nice route. And so that was kind of, for me, is a little disappointing that this year I wasn't able to do that, but I understand it, because they're trying to make money, and survive throughout the thing. And so if they're saying, hey, this is the only way you can do it, then I'd probably do the same thing if I was in their shoes.
With half their seating gone, I see that it's a viability issue for them. That's the only way they're going to exist. And you've got to say, what's the most important thing? The businesses downtown and the merchants staying alive, staying in business, if we have to give up our event for a year.
Right.
Now, is that on the long-term basis, like this year, we're not able to do some of our giving, like the community giving and the school giving, the grants, we'll probably not be able to do that just because of
So you guys charged for your car show, correct? And that's how you were able to pay for the grants and everything?
Right.
Okay, that's really cool. Yeah.
And through sponsors. Our sponsors are huge. It's a huge part of what we do is the sponsorships we get. They're monstrously big for us. T-shirt sales. And then during the cruising, we would sell the window stickers for $5. And that helped. We sold a lot of the window stickers during the events, and people loved to have those on there. So we started a program where Bob and myself, Bob's the guy who makes all the amazing awards. I don't know if you ever got a chance to see them.
I never did, no.
Super cool. Super cool. all handmade. It wasn't plastic and walnut veneer. These are all handmade awards. So he made 4 special awards, and we looked for cars that had the Cruising McMinnville sticker in the window, and we picked 4 winners during the cruising event for that.
Yeah.
And that was our plan actually for this year. We were going to do like 8. We were going to double it, but that didn't work. And then we tried an online car show, which I think we had 1 vehicle or maybe 2. Some people had like the sticker laying on the window. Only 1 person had it, but it was in the back window.
Right.
So we had some challenges with that event, trying to get, it's hard to grasp an online car show.
For sure.
I've seen it work in some different venues. Hop Up did a good job.
I was just going to say, Hop Up did a really good job with theirs. But also, the difference is like 1,000-ish followers versus Hop Up's got, 70,000 at least?
Yes.
And it's a super famous magazine of a really, really long time.
Right.
So they definitely have that power,
Right.
Yeah.
And really, their attendance for the size of group they are wasn't that big.
Right.
For their event.
Yep.
So, I think I don't think they had 1,000 people out of their 70,000 viewership.
Yeah.
So if you take the numbers, our results probably comparable. We just didn't have the depth of the people to draw from. So we looked at doing it worldwide. We really wanted to open it to people from wherever, Australia. Didn't matter where. But we didn't get the draw that we thought.
It's a lot harder. Yeah.
It was a challenge.
And hopefully this summer we can see some swap meets and car shows that we can actually attend.
Yes.
That's my hope. I don't know how good it's going to look. We're judging by the way things are going already, but I really hope that that's something we're able to do.
That always in April swap meet, that's
I know.
Really a challenge.
They advertised it, and I was just talking to Travis about how I wanted to set up a booth for HRK Design there, but I don't know if I should even do it because I'm not very hopeful that it's going to be able to happen.
Yeah. We have 5 slots outside right by the corner of the expo business building. Yeah. And it's an annual gig for us. I've done it for about 30 years now. Yep. So just shows
that's where I wanted to go to, is the expo building.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's always a nice break after you're outside all day, going to the expo building and relax. Right. Yeah.
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 Definitely. So anyhow, that's been really fun. Cruising McMinnville has been a huge blessing, but it's a team event. It isn't one guy, definitely.
Right.
I happen to be the face of it, and I do a lot of the online stuff, and most of the stuff that you see is things that I work on. But we have a big team of people that work on stuff. Yeah. So without our volunteers, 180 strong.
That's a lot.
And our leadership team, and then we have about a 35-person kind of a leadership team, and then we have our board.
Yeah.
It's definitely a team event. So that's been really fun working together with people and a lot of the gearheads from the area.
Another question is how did it all start for you as far as hot rodding goes, right? Probably started pretty young, getting into classic cars and hot rods.
Yeah. I mean, I've tried to think about that before. I can't remember a time in my life when I didn't like cars and trucks. Anything with tires, I just have always liked. I mean, I love bicycles. In 1967 Christmas, out of the Montgomery Ward catalog, I ordered my first Hot Wheels set. And they always say that they started in 68, but Christmas of 67, they were available. And it didn't show up for Christmas. It showed up after Christmas. But I got the little drag race track where they came down and did the loop-de-loop and came through and the flags crossed.
How much were Hot Wheels back then?
49 cents.
49 cents, okay.
Which comparatively is a lot of money compared to today, right? Yeah. But before that, I was making models, and I had a brother that built models who kind of influenced me a little bit. And I would take his leftover, you'd get a 3-in-1 kit.
And you'd have the leftovers,
And I would take his leftovers, and I would take the sprue, which is, the plastic trees that the parts came on, and I'd make chassis out of, I'd shave all the pieces off. I hit the microphone. I knew I was going to do that.
That's all right.
I'd shave all the little chunks off and everything,
on there,
and just make chassis, and then put axles, and I'd make gassers.
That's awesome.
That's how because I couldn't afford to buy a kit.
Right.
Until I got my paper route. I was about 10 years old when I got a paper route. Then I started building models like crazy, building hot rods and customs. And I had an uncle in about 1965 that had a 53 Chevy with an Olds J2 in it, dual carb setup on it. And it was wicked fast, and it had holes in the floor. He lived up in the Seattle area, and it was a rough and raw car, but that was one of my first indoctrinations into a really fast car and seeing the ground go by. You know, I'm sitting in the back seat with my brother, and
you're like, oh man,
it was cool. It didn't scare me a bit because my brother and sister were scared. My dad was flipped out because all the kids were in the car, and I was just like, "Can we go again?" And he's like, "No."
Yeah, that reminds me of the first time I was like 14. First time I rode in a Model A, well, it was actually a Model T on a Model A frame, was Gramps. And I was with Jared, and we went down Airport Road, and he's like, let's, it's original 4-banger motor. He's like, let's see how fast this thing can go, you know? And so it's one of those same deals. We got wood floorboards, and you can see like where the pedals are and where the shifters, you can see straight to the ground it's going by, you know? And it's got no seat belts, and then we're going and the door pops open because it just wants to open, and we're like, oh my God, it was so, we go like 55 in that thing, and just sketchy as ever. And our hood's starting to pop up, you know? And yeah, that was awesome. That was actually the time we caused an accident because as our hood started to pop up, we're like, hey, we need to go duct tape this thing back down, right? So we pulled into Evergreen, the little, you know, driveway there, and this guy who was driving by was looking at our car, and as he's looking, he runs straight into the curb, which was about 6 inches high. Oh my gosh. And so he bottomed out his car, and like the car started leaking oil because he bashed in his oil pan and then got a flat tire. And then him and his wife get out, and she's cussing him out like, you idiot, you weren't even paying attention to the road. We're like, we got to get out of here. We just caused an accident.
It's time to go, huh? Yeah.
So hopped in the Model T, and then we were actually, we were heading to Cruising the Gut is where we were heading to.
Nice.
And yeah, had some adventures before then. And then that was a time that we were cruising, and I had just, the very first time I'd ever done a chopped light bar like I have on my dad's Roadster and like I did on my Roadster. And we put new headlights on it too. Well, when we wired it up, you know, obviously has some ratty wiring in it. So the headlights decided, hey, we're just not going to work anymore.
Right.
Well, our switch was burning up. It just had shorted out. So Jared's like, oh, well, just hold the bare wire on the metal, you know, and that's what we'll do. Now we have working lights again, just manually holding the wires together. And I'm like, dang, that thing's getting really hot. And he's like, whatever, let me see it. He's like, ow, that thing's getting really hot. So we grabbed the roll of tape that we taped the hood on there with, and I'm holding that down onto the piece of metal to like ground it out so the lights will come on. And then we're driving home, pitch black dark, in a Model A with which when we chopped the light bar, I did it wrong. So the lights were facing up just a little bit too much. So we got lights pointing at the moon that are flickering and barely on, and no windshield. And we're trying to get home, going down Airport Road in the pitch black dark. Yeah, those are the stories that you remember. It's not always the perfect cars with, you know, you start it up and you get there. No, you remember the ones of the sketchy times that you got to clap stuff together.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I remember all the cars that didn't have floorboards.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I was about 8 years old. This is 1967. And thinking back on what influenced me. And my dad had cars, but he had mom's cars.
Yeah.
So dad would always take us out and go clean the carbon out of mom's station wagon.
Yeah, I love that excuse.
We had a 58 Brookwood wagon. It was tan, and we would go out Peavine, and dad would just floor it and step on it and just clean the carbon out.
Yeah.
Quote unquote.
Yep.
When it would snow, we would go into the parking lot. Grocery outlet was Mayfair at the time. So we'd go into that parking lot. I remember him a police officer came and said, what are you doing? Oh, he said, I just slipped on it. He says, you've been doing that for about 10 minutes. And he said, oh.
Yeah, he's like, you realize how slick it is? I'm sliding. Yeah.
But I'm in the car, and I think the thing that I realized was I learned a lot about how to drive and how to steer into it. And dad would show me, steer in, don't steer out, right? And how to get out of a slide and how to get a car to slide. And I'd learned that stuff. So I took my kids when they were little. I took them out and we'd go peel around the parking lot. My wife would have had nothing to do with it. But the kids are like, it's snowing, Dad.
The cinema parking lot.
So we'd go
That's the one to go to.
Church on the Hill was always a good place.
One too, yeah.
The Dodge dealership was when it was kind of empty.
Yeah.
We had snow one year that was really deep. It was really deep. I was think 2004, 2006, something like that.
I remember that. I think it was 2008, actually.
Might have been.
Yeah.
And it was a good solid snow, and we had a lot of snow on top of ice.
Yeah.
And so it was really slick, and we went just broad sliding, and we just tore that. We may have tore that lot up a little bit. But anyhow, I was about 8 years old, and there was a 55 Chevy Gasser, bright yellow, California plates. It had a straight axle in the front, and it had this weird interior with swivel buckets, and it had like a console, almost like a van. It was weird. I was 8 years old, and I remember that being in front of it was Mac Auto Parts.
Okay. Yeah.
Parked all the way in the inn, backed in. It was first time I saw big tires, and I think they were Mickey Thompson's.
Yep.
But they were big, and I couldn't figure out how they got tires. Like, did they glue tires together? I didn't understand all the concepts of everything. It was a 4-speed. It was chromed everything.
Probably had pizza cutters up in front. And,
Such a neat car. It had
That's
chrome
awesome.
reverses. Front and back, and that really was an influential car, and you actually see a lot of people in McMinnville that were influenced by that car. Mike Turner with his maroon 55. Jerry Stelflug, I don't know if you know him. He has a red and white 55 Chevy straight axle. Several. I'm building one right now. I'm in the middle of building it, and that was a hard top too. It wasn't a post car.
Yeah.
Typically the straight axle cars were post cars, but that car was a hard top. So the car I'm doing right now is a hardtop.
Do you remember who owned that car?
I think the gentleman's last name was Seuss.
Seuss.
Just like Dr. Seuss.
Did he work at Mac Auto Parts?
Might have been. It worked there at the time. Yeah.
That's super cool.
And then a guy named, it was owned by 3 different people. I'm not sure who the middle person was. Seuss might have been the second person. But I know that Dave Taylor ended up with it out of Carlton. And that car typically was driven like it was stolen, even though it wasn't. It got wrecked one time. I think a gal drove it. He let a gal drive it. And she put it in a ditch, damaged it, and it was in the backyard of a house in Carlton. So we tried to obtain that car, and Dave was like, nothing doing. The last time I saw it, it came out of Wilco. Got gas at Wilco, and I think he must have just got it on the road, and he came out of there absolutely sideways across the lanes of traffic.
So that reminds me of when I hadn't met you yet, and I had not met Kurt West yet. And I was 19, I was working at Wilco, and he comes in and he talks to my coworker, which was this older guy with a mustache. You know, he looked like he would have owned the truck. And he goes, "Excuse me, sir, do you own that blue 57 outside?" And my coworker goes, "No, it's that young kid over there." And so Kurt West comes over and he introduces, and I saw him, and I think he had a Hot Rod shirt on or something, and of course he had his big beard, and I'm like, this guy's got to be a hot rodder. He's got tattoos and everything. I'm like, this guy's got to be a hot rodder. So then he came over and introduced himself, and he's like, "I really like your truck," and then followed me on Instagram and posted a picture of it. And then you, who I'd also followed, and like I knew you were local, I just hadn't met you yet. You're like, "I saw that truck driving through town just the other day," because I used to daily drive it back then.
Right.
Yeah, and so it's funny because there's so many people in this local car community that it's crazy how long you can go without knowing them, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So you knew I was loco?
Yeah, loco. Yeah.
Sorry, I had to do that.
Yeah.
That might be true.
Yeah.
We're all a little, what's that show they have out, the McGuire's guy, Car Crazy?
Yeah.
You got to be a little car crazy to do what we do.
For sure. Just a little crazy in general to want to, wrench on all these old cars and spend all this money and time on them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot of worse habits to have.
That's true. I guess that's true, yeah.
There really are. I talked to my wife. She's an amazing supporter of what I do. She'll come out in the garage and watch me work or something. She really doesn't do much hands-on stuff. But she always knows where to find me.
Yep.
I'm in the shop. I'm at a show. I'm at a swap meet. I'm out shagging parts somewhere, hunting down the elusive Fiesta flipper hubcap or something.
Right.
There's always something to go hunt down.
Yeah. My girlfriend, she's really supportive too, and she's been really interested in hearing all about the different history of things, and seeing all the different cars. I let her drive my truck over the summer for the first time, and she had never driven a car without power steering. And my truck is hard to drive. It's not like a Model A or something. It's hard to drive without power steering. So that was a big experience for her of having to really reef on the wheel and before I had wider tires on there, so it was even harder than it was now. But
right,
that was a new experience. Armstrong steering.
Both of my kids have driven. We had a longer driveway when we lived out towards Staten. And my daughter would drive our 59 El Camino up the driveway. She was like 2, barely able to stand in my lap. And she'd steer that thing up the driveway. So
I did that with my nephew the other day, driving my dad's truck.
We got them involved pretty early. I'd hoped both would be just serious car kids, but not really so much.
It's like we were talking with Russ just the other day, though. I forget the guy's name, but he was saying that he had 2 sons that were just super into sports and didn't want to have anything to do with cars. Right. And then after a while, then they were just super car crazy. So you never know. It could come after a little while.
Right.
When they get a little bit older, then they get the car bug. Yeah. It's hard to just not, if you come from like a car family, it's hard to just not be into cars. And if you've ever been interested in cars before, it's hard to just all of a sudden, you might be able to take a break for a little while, but it's hard to just totally lose that passion.
My son has I have a Mustang. We have a 65 Mustang factory V8 car.
Cool.
So he's helped work on that a little bit. So I'm going to get it back in the shop as soon as I make some room.
Yeah.
And do a little wrenching on that. We're going to put some torque thrusts on it. And I think I'll get him involved again, but I don't know how deep he'll want to go. That's up to, I just don't want to push them.
Right.
Because unfortunately, a lot of what happens is you try to push them in, and what you do is you push them away. Right. From it. So I want them to come to it because they want to.
Another thing I would say is interest, because there's so many different genres, you could say, of the car world, right? So like for me in particular, I'm a super like traditional hot rod guy, Model A's and the early stuff, right? But there's so many different avenues you could go. So even if somebody's not interested in traditional hot rods, they could be interested in cars. Right. And they might just have to find that thing. So if you're pushing really hard on a traditional Model A, but maybe he wants to be more of a muscle car guy or 4-wheel drive guy, still an interest there, but it's just maybe not the same genre. So that's why it's good to just give a general taste of everything there is to do. Yeah.
And I love it. Personally, I love a traditional hot rod, but I really got my hot rodding start with street rod stuff. Yep. It was turnkey. I got into a Pro Street 36 Chevy pickup that was pretty wicked fat tire truck. And, that really started me down the road. Next thing I know, I'm building a 16 Model T, and I'm doing Model A's. Yeah. And, now I love a traditional car, but I always have a soft spot for muscle cars.
Yeah, for sure.
And for trucks, just a lot of this stuff. My problem is, we talked about a little bit ago, is squirrel moments. I'm really easy to get sidetracked on don't sidetrack me too much. Yeah. But people are like, yeah, we know. I do bicycles. I love Schwinn Stingrays.
Yeah, I've seen some of the stuff you posted about that. Yeah.
Cruiser bikes. I love Hot Wheels. I've just kind of taken off into M2 machines. That's a whole nother genre. Diecast, any diecast. I try not to go too crazy on it, but I still have that whatever was done to me as a kid.
Hot Wheels is the gateway drug.
It is.
I still collect Hot Wheels. Whenever we go anywhere, Walmart, wherever has Hot Wheels, straight to the Hot Wheels. I'm flipping through, and most of them I've been kind of frustrated recently are just kind of some cheesy ones, But I still will look through there and find a car that I get really excited about, and then I have to tell the whole story about the car's history, and it's like okay, no, we don't care.
Every now and then there's a casting that just nails it. Yeah. They nail the stance and Larry Wood was early times Hot Rod Club down in California. Larry Wood, Elwood, he was one of their star designers over time, and he would nail a stance and he would nail a body design, because it's got to look right and it's got to be scaled right. And sometimes they have an opportunity. Matchbox did a Barracuda, and it's just not right. Right. It looks pudgy and chunky, and it doesn't. That's a sleek car, but you try to do it in 1/64 scale, and they just got it wrong.
Yep. Yeah, and a lot of Hot Wheels especially, I get kind of tired of just the same wheels all the way across the board. And Matchbox and some of the M2 ones, like you were saying, they do a really good job of getting the wheels right. Because I'm a big fan of, I don't like big flashy wheels. I like really simple, bland wheels. Because I don't want wheels that detract from what there is in the car.
Right.
So that's why most of the time, especially for the cars I like to build, it's either black wires or black solid steelies with just maybe some nice hubcaps on there, and then you're good to go. I don't like big flashy wheels.
So you're not going to throw a set of 20s on your...
Oh yeah, maybe something with spinners. That would actually be the most epic thing ever if I had my hot rod super traditional, the patina look on it, and then just some giant 20-inch chrome spinners. That would be low profile tires. I might have to do that just for fun because that would be awesome.
I put a set of 20s on a 59 Biscayne that I had a couple years ago. I got a really good buy on Craigslist, so I'm like,
yeah,
I think that'll look good on the car, and it stanced it out nice, and it got a lot of attention.
Yeah.
Actually, that's why they bought the car.
The whole chip,
was the 20s.
The whole chip foose though, that look with the big wheels on the muscle car, I can do that. I like that look.
As long as it's right.
As long as it's right, yeah. But Chip Foose usually does a pretty good job of getting those nice.
He does.
His are clean. They're not super overdone and flashy. He does some really nice clean wheels. Yeah.
Yeah, and like Detroit Steel Wheel Company, they're doing some pretty cool stuff. There are some wheel companies that are doing some neat stuff out there.
Yeah.
So I'm not a 20s fan, but that's just me.
Yeah.
I don't mind a 16 or an 18 or 17 or something, as long as there's some rubber. Because the thing is a rubber is part of your suspension.
Yep.
And people forget that, and they're like, my car rides like junk. Right?
Got those low profile tires on there,
and there's your suspension. It's that much, right? You need that rubber for cushion on the road, and
it's like a Model A. Half your suspension's in the seat. That's why you got to have that big cushy seat in there. That's half your suspension. How long have we been going for?
We are at 36 minutes.
I'm going to go pee real quick.
Okay.
Drinking too much water.
I'll keep it going. Makes things easier.
Locally, which will be a while, then we also have a feature on this board where we can do like a FaceTime call too. So that way if somebody's wherever in the world, we can do a FaceTime podcast as well. But
awesome.
As far as, and then Dan also, he heard about the podcast and got super excited. So he's been finding me a whole bunch of guests, calling people up, and yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, there's a lot of really cool people in this hobby. Hobby, passion, whatever you call it, lifestyle.
Yep.
I mean, it's all of the above.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of awesome people.
Yeah.
That's really been cars are one thing. I love cars and trucks and all that stuff, but it's the people that keeps you coming back.
Exactly. Those long-time friendships that you make.
I've met people from all over the planet, and a lot of them I would give the keys to my car and my wallet and the key to my house and never worry about it. I mean, the percentage of people who are not trustworthy that are in the car hobby, pretty small.
Yep.
Pretty small. It definitely goes against society in general. Yeah. Right? And you take the percentage of people who are not trustworthy in the car hobby versus the percentage of people who are not trustworthy in the world, and it's night and day.
That's like the
night and day difference.
The guy we bought this frame from in the engine for my dad's Willys. When we had something of his, I forget what it was, like a tool or something. He's just out in EM Hill. And he's like, hey, you guys have my one wrench or whatever. And we're like, oh, okay, well, we're going to be gone. We'll leave this shop unlocked. Just lock it on your way out. We had only known the guy for the one day that we bought it from him, but we just got the vibes, He's a trustworthy guy. And now I see him in Davison's all the time. And super cool guy. Yeah.
I had a guy in Australia, Graham, and I bought a couple cars. He was interested in some cars. We met through eBay and got to talking. And I ended up, at one point in time, he would just ship me money and I would buy him cars. And then they were obviously his, and we'd ship them. I bought a 67 Camaro for him. I bought a 34 Ford pickup. He bought a Model A coupe, the one that Curtis built, the black one, the black bomber.
Right.
And that Charlie worked on, and then I kind of finished out. And then he bought it, and then he sold it back to me Then I sold it again, and it ended up back in Australia within about 50 miles of where Graham lived.
That's crazy.
He was pretty bummed. And
Yeah.
they put shoulder belts and fenders and all that stuff.
Oh,
and then
yeah.
the guy was in Australia's Hot Rod magazine, and he claimed he built the car.
Oh, neat.
Yeah. And I wrote to the magazine, and they're like, we don't care. Literally said, we don't care.
That's BS.
Didn't make the editorial page, obviously.
Yeah.
They said, we don't care. He said he built it. We believe him. And that's all we're going to do with that.
Yeah.
So
That's a big
Gotta
one.
love that.
That's got to be worse than stealing a car, is stealing somebody else's work and claiming that to be your own.
Right.
Because that's somebody's art, you know, and it takes a lot of passion and skill to be able to do some of the building on these cars and to claim that.
You know, it's like Kurt, he is an amazing, he can stance a hot rod.
Yep.
I don't know how much you looked at the 32 Ford that he built, that Chandler
green
coupe.
one. Yeah.
What a gorgeous car. And he started with just a basic trash body, you know, found some green paint on it and said, this is what I'm going to build. And one of the most bitchin' cars I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You know,
Tell you what, that guy surprises me though, because I don't know if it's there or if he's just stone cold and doesn't show it, but he is emotionless when he talks about his, you know, because he sold us this great little Model A here.
Right.
And he's just, sold it to them.
Yeah.
Or when he talks about his 32, he's like, yeah, I used to have it, but I sold it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, I'd be like getting ready to tear up if I was you talking about this, you know? Like, I have a hard time parting with stuff.
should have been there the day you sold it.
Yeah.
He was not emotionless that day.
Yeah.
But super good guy. And that's the cool thing. There's so many people like that. Charlie is another one. And we've actually, Kurt, myself, and Charlie, we've collaborated on a lot of stuff. And it'll like start with Kurt and go to Charlie, or start with Charlie and go to Kurt. And then usually they end up with me. And then I kind of finish them out.
Yeah.
They just get them to a point where they're running and driving, and then I do the the finish work.
I think I was telling you about it before, but that hood right back there, that's the one that everybody signs when they come in the shop, and that came from Charlie Haskell.
Right.
And then the grill, it's on my car. It used to be that color, but then my dad bought the grill from him as like a birthday present, I think it was. And so is that.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So is that color, and then I made it to match my car, but it fit perfectly because it's two 32 grills that are put together, and it's sectioned, and the sectioning that was done on it is just perfect fit for my Model T.
Right.
Which was great. And then he was going to sell that hood as well at the Portland swap meet, and then he ended up not selling it or whatever, and so he just said, hey, just take it. Like,
nice.
I don't need it anymore. And so awesome. I was looking at it, and it's a solid piece hood, and I was like, I really don't know what I'd end up putting that on, but it's so cool because it was part of a magazine car, and it has a story of being with my grill, and I was like, you know what, I'm going to keep it exactly how it is, hang it up on the wall, and that'll be a great wall hanger for people to come by and sign the hood.
Right.
So, yeah.
I remember all those parts.
Yep.
When he had them.
Yep.
I bet. So we've had a lot of cool stuff go through our hands.
Yeah.
Most of us have. It's pretty amazing.
Yep. Yeah. What are some of the cars you have right now that you're working on?
Oh boy. Squirrel.
Yeah.
I have a 50 Ford Club Coupe that I'm doing a little bit of a transformation on. Curtis had his hand in that. It was his father's car. So I'm actually doing a bit of a tail dragger. I've got some Ford 15-inch wheel or 16-inch wheels that I'm putting on it with wide whites.
You know, I get a lot of hate for that, but I have a soft spot for tail draggers.
So I'm dropping the back. I'm going to get it all stanced out and then see how far I'm dropping the back. I'm thinking 3-inch right now, but little drop. And I haven't decided skirts or no skirts. So it just depends on the stance. Working on that. Finishing out a 28 Model A Roadster that I just obtained. Did some trading for a 40 Chevy Coupe that I had forever.
Yep, that's a blue one, right?
That 28? No.
The coupe?
No, Roadster. I should have said Did I say coupe?
Yeah.
It's a Roadster.
Maybe you might have said Roadster, and I'm just like,
yeah.
But the blue coupe as well that we raced in,
Yeah, I'm going to play with that a little bit
before
it comes out next year. I don't know if I'm going to hop it up or what I'm going to do, but
I'll
was play
fun.
with a little bit.
That was fun though. The harvest drags over at Charlie's. Yeah, that was a great time over there, and we raced quite a few times. Yeah, that was a really good time.
It'll have a little less seat this year.
Yeah. Well, my
The
dad's
seat was pretty cushiony.
my dad's Roadster needs a
kept
little
hitting
less seat too.
Yeah.
Luckily, we don't have a top on there, but
Right.
But even with that tall windshield, which in my opinion, and in his opinion, needs to be shorter, you still sit just a little bit above the windshield.
Right.
You got to sit low in a hot rod.
I think one of the my favorite things that came out of that was the video your dad shot of us.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Doing the heads up.
That was
and
good. Yeah.
He was in there. That's one of my all-time favorites.
Yeah, that was a
of
good
the
video.
event.
And then Russ Heath, have you seen his YouTube channel that he's doing?
Yes, I have.
Yeah, so he did a pretty cool video of that one too. But
Yeah.
I did like the one where he was in the Roadster. That was
Right.
a good one. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that's super cool.
Yeah.
What else am I working? I'm working on a Corvair for a gal, factory turbo 4-speed Corvair. So that's kind of taken a little bit of my time, but I've got a few projects going on. We've got to get the 55 gasser going. I'd love to get it going this year. I don't know if that will happen, but I need Charlie's help on some fabricating to get that to the point where I can take over.
Yeah.
And then what else? I've got a 64 El Camino, factory 327 4-speed, factory black, original paint, 46,000 miles.
Dang.
I need to get a motor back in that and get that driving. It's a pretty exceptional car, super neat. Very stoked to have it. Factory metallic brakes, and
Yeah.
it's just a neat. Sold new at Car Chevrolet. I have every bit of paperwork from the
Yeah.
guy who had it, that bought it brand new, one owner car.
That's cool.
So pretty stoked about that. And what else is going on? I'm gonna lower a 65 pickup. Pretty stock,
Yep.
super stock, but a neat little factory short box
Cool.
truck. I'm going to drop it, but static lowering. I'm
Yep.
not doing bags
No
or
bags. Yeah.
hydraulics or anything crazy
Yeah.
like that. That's just not my bag.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry. Pun intended.
Yeah. So what's the difference? Like you have two Instagrams. You have
Yeah.
Good Guy Tim, and then you have House of Hot Rod. So what's the House of Hot Rod thing?
House of Hot Rods has been my pet hobby business
Okay.
for about 30 years or so now. And maybe a little less, but I jokingly, my plaque, if you ever look at it, says established 1959, which is when I was born. So
Okay.
it wasn't really, just
Yeah.
was established when I was born. That's,
Right.
I would love to have that be my business, but I would have to retire to do that. And I don't know what that looks like. But I'm excited about this year. I'm hopefully going to do some fun things with it. It's just more of a hobby,
Yeah.
more of a passion than anything else. So
What kind of work do you usually end up doing?
I do old car appraisals, and I sell vehicles for people.
Okay.
I spent 37 years running car dealerships, so I know just a
Right.
little bit about the sales business. So people typically, if I have time, they'll bring their cars to me, and I'll help them sell them. Like Kurt's 32, I put it on eBay. I did a lot of the pictures that you see of it. I went out to the Air Museum and took a lot of those pictures.
That's nice to have too. Is somebody when the sale of something, you can just give it to somebody and
Right.
put it in their hands and to get it done. That's nice to have.
And I weeded out all of the people, all the kind of sort of people.
Right.
All the whisper people that, hey, I want to talk to you about found somebody who really had a passion for the car, really wanted to own the car, and set it up to where basically all the guy had to do was come meet with Curtis and finalize the deal and load it up and go.
That's a cool business. Yeah.
So, and we send stuff all over the planet, which is really fun. A lot of stuff goes to Australia. We just sent a 62 Dodge, two-door to Australia. I've met a lot of those people through selling other people's vehicles. So, but that's the difference. My Good Guy Tim account is just me.
Yeah.
And House of Hot Rods. I actually work for a company called Good Guys. We do car shows all around the country.
Right.
It's a volunteer Rotters rep position. I don't get paid. They pay me in T-shirts.
Yep.
And I've been with them for about 22, 23 years, something like that.
Cool.
Maybe 24. I don't recall.
That's cool.
But I was kind of Gary Medder's eyes and ears up here. And Gary would look at cars. He loved like hardtop station wagons was one of his passions. So he'd find Polara wagons and stuff, and I'd go find them, and I would buy them for him. And
Right. So you'll go find cars for people too.
he'd reimburse me, and then I would drive it down to California, and Maryland would take me out to dinner, and I really miss him. He passed away just a couple years ago.
And that's something that the whole finding cars too takes a lot of skill that I think most people don't realize. And I know a couple of people who are good at it. I'm not good at it at all. And parts too, and
Yeah.
and digging for stuff like that.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and a lot of it too isn't necessarily being the finder yourself, but being aligned and being, have an
With other
alliance
people.
with those
Yeah.
people who are the finders.
Right.
And a lot of people bring me stuff, and they're like, how come you're always getting this car? It's because I have a lot of good finders out there. And
Yeah.
they can't buy everything, and so they'll turn a lead to me, or
Yeah.
so I might find somebody that wants it or needs it, or figure out a way.
Luckily, I have a couple of those people too, because most of my stuff that I've been able to buy has not been stuff that I've found.
Right.
It's been stuff that other people have known that I'd be interested in and turned
Sure.
it to me. So.
But in time, you'll find that stuff too, and you'll be the one turning
Yep.
people onto stuff.
Yep.
So you just have this alliance, this allegiance with other people, and this friendship, and you know what they're looking for. They know what you're
Yep.
looking for. Sometimes you barter and you trade. Sometimes you just buy it and give it to them.
Yeah.
That's a mind blower for people when they
Yeah.
just end up with something. It's like,
That's
here's your hood.
That's what a lot of people will get surprised also, because like as far as in my community and my friends group, we will just do we'll just give it to them without expecting anything in return, because you're like, oh yeah, I got this set of spindles, let's say, that's sitting on my shelf. I haven't used them in a while. Just have them. Because then I know that here in like a year, and maybe even sooner, there's going to be something that you're going to have that I need for my project, and then it'll just be a switch.
That's right.
And you don't need to keep tallies or anything. You just, if somebody needs something and you have it and you're not going to use it, you just give it to them.
Yep.
Yep.
Here
Do
you
a
go.
lot of that too.
Yeah, we do that a lot.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff changes hands. Sometimes money does, sometimes money
Yep.
doesn't. And it really, we're not just keeping score, keeping tabs on who's
Right.
where or that's not what it's about.
Right.
It's about the passion of watching other people. Then you see what they do with what that thing is, right?
Yeah.
So that's pretty fun. Pretty fun. It might put a downdraft carburetor on a Model A stock motor, right?
Yeah.
And then next year you see them at the harvest drags, and they're a little faster.
Yep, exactly. And then, you're giving them the stuff that's going to beat you.
It's going to make them faster than you are, right?
Exactly. But you get a lot more
okay.
enjoyment out of that. Because, I mean, if you have a part that's just sitting on your shelf, you have it. But if you give it to somebody and then you see that complete their project and they're getting some enjoyment out of that and made something cool out of it, that's even better.
And I think you see events like the harvest drags.
Yeah.
To where as more videos start showing, it was not a competition.
Right.
It was fun to see who could beat who, but we're all laughing while we're doing it.
Exactly.
There's nobody getting mad. They're like, darn it.
When you beat me 4 times in a row, nobody was actually mad, but it was just hilarious,
Right.
It's just so much fun. Yeah.
We were having a ball. That was one of the best days I've had in a long time.
Yeah.
It was just a point in my life when I needed that day.
Right.
More than most people would even know. I just needed that day, and that was a good day. I came out of that.
Chill
it was
and casual too.
Really fun.
Yeah.
I didn't expect a lot of the things that happened.
Yeah.
That day I didn't expect, but I didn't expect the car to run all day either.
Yeah.
But it did.
Yeah.
2 days before it wasn't running.
Right.
And hadn't run in about 3 years. So
Dang. There you go.
had water coming out of the radiator every
Oh,
direction, and it was like I'm like, this is not going to happen.
Yeah. You gonna give that thing a chop top someday?
It's already chopped.
Oh, it is already chopped?
Yeah.
Okay. Was it chopped at the... Why did I think it wasn't chopped? Which one was I thinking? You already chopped it. For some reason, I was thinking it wasn't chopped and you were talking about chopping it. Okay.
We might have talked about the chop.
Maybe that's what it was. Yeah.
It had to be chopped correctly and chopped
Yeah.
tastefully and not too chopped, because you can chop a Model A too much and
Yep.
then you lose perspective and proportion, and it's not. We really wanted that car to look like a car that came right out of the late 40s or even late 30s, early 50s.
Who did that chop? Did you do it?
Charlie did it.
Charlie did it. Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
Super cool.
Charlie did it.
It looked good. Now that I'm thinking about it, I'm remembering the chop top.
Yeah.
And it looked good. I think I was thinking of Daryl.
I should say North Palm Speed.
North Palm Speed, yeah.
I might get in trouble for saying that.
Charlie,
I don't want everybody bringing him, I don't know.
Right.
I don't know if he has time to do such a thing with with his school duties these days. But yeah, it was, we were kind of walking through things and he's like, I can chop it. I think Kurt didn't have time to do it or something. He was busy with some other stuff. And next thing I know, he said, yeah, I can do it.
Yep.
Cutoff wheel went and we came down.
It's one of those things. It's one of those things you just got to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to cut into a car like that, but you just got to do it.
I love that car. It's been such a fun car. I wasn't sure what I thought about it, especially when it sat for 3 years and didn't drive. But I mean,
you start thinking a lot better about something when you're driving it.
we railed on that car. I mean, we really did. We railed on all our cars that day. I mean,
yeah.
And it's funny because we were in the cars. It felt like we were going fast, but we see the video of it.
And you're like, what?
My wife and my daughter are like,
I wasn't actually going that slow. Yeah,
you're
totally.
not going fast at all.
Totally. I had the same experience because when I saw that, driving, I'm thinking, I'm hauling ass.
Right.
And I look at the video and I'm like, there's no way it was that slow. There's no way.
We probably weren't going much over 40, 45.
Yeah,
I don't think,
that'd be my guess. But I mean, for a stock Model A in a dirt field, that's pretty good.
And the ruts.
Yeah, and the ruts. Yeah,
getting tossed
from the
around.
V8 cars.
Because if you watch the one video, you can see my tires.
Yeah.
I mean, because I got no shocks.
Right.
0 shocks. And those tires and the axles are just going.
And you're bouncing in
and my
there.
head kept hitting. I had the little helmet.
It's a good thing you had that helmet too. Yeah.
It rashed the top of that thing. It just wasted it. Mitch Kim striping and stuff on it.
Yeah, it was a cool helmet.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
Still is.
It's got some battle wounds on it now.
It's got some character
story,
today.
Yeah. Oh, man.
Yeah.
Well, how long have we been going for now?
We are at 57.
I think that's a good place to stop.
57.
Thanks for coming on, Tim.
Absolutely.
It was a good talk, yeah.
Thank you for having me on board. This is an honor to be here and
I don't know about that, but
just to ratchet my jaw with Noah and the Hot Rod Kid. Be a part of what he's doing and up and coming. He's our future right here, guys. It's our future of hot riding sitting right here.
Working on getting this with the whole what I try to do is get more people my age into it. Because talking about the whole genre thing, right? I think that people my age, it might not be that they're not interested in these types of cars, but they just don't have somebody who's there to teach them about it and show them. Right. Because luckily I grew up with my dad and stuff who showed me all about classic cars, but for a lot of people my age, I don't think it's that they're not interested, they just don't have anybody to show them. So and
they don't know that it's attainable.
Right.
They don't really know how attainable it is because hot rodding, the truth is you can do it.
Exactly.
You can build a hot rod. They're attainable, they're gettable, they're affordable. Find that mentor, find that person who will help guide you through it. The whole origins of hot rodding to begin with is taking a car that's cheap and affordable, that you and your buddies pool your money together and you say, hey, let's build this car to where it'll go a little bit faster than it used to go. It's not about building a beautiful show car. It's about building something that you can afford and have fun with and go a little bit faster than it used to go. That's the origins of hot rodding. That's right. You see so many of the pictures, there's literally groups of guys working on the car, thrashing on the car. Somebody's under the hood, somebody's underneath the car. Yeah. They're all doing different things.
Yeah.
And it was a lot of teamwork that went on. So that mentorship and that teamwork in it is a big deal.
Yep. Yeah, I've been lucky to have a lot of really cool mentors in the hot rod world. Very fortunate for that.
That's a big deal.
Yep.
That's a big deal.
Thanks
all right, my friend.
On.
Well, best wishes to your future and to HRK Enterprises or whatever your official name is or will be. But keep doing what you're doing. We're proud of what you're doing and just keep swinging that hammer.
I will. All right.